You're listening to Deadbeat Daddy Podcast.
Welcome back, fellow deadbeats. Today's episode is one I'm extremely passionate about. Child motherfucking support, y'all. The elephant in the room that no dad likes to discuss or truly think about. And why would they, or why should they? Unpopular opinion, but child support is for actual deadbeat dads, not the active ones carrying an unjustified label. In the day and age we live in, there's absolutely no reason a BM can't have her own decent income, home, or living space and be able to provide for their child. When I say this, I'm not saying that dads get off scot-free. In fact, dads should be providing 50% of what the child or children's needs are. But that does not mean you get handed hundreds of dollars to do whatever with. That's the issue so many men have. And the system does nothing to make sure that these children actually receive what they deserve. You trashy BMs love to use the money for anything other than the child. Let's talk about how many BMs I have on Facebook, and I see what they're doing with their money because they love to post it. One BM took her child support money and went on a girl's vacation. How is that using money on the child? Make it make sense, you dumb bitches. She posted about how her baby daddy is paying for her and her girl's drinks and made a mockery of him, paying support to her. When he brought this evidence to court, the judge did not take action against the mother. The judge stated mom is allowed to use the money in the ways she needs as long as the children are taken care of. So dumping your kids with your own mother on the regular and having her provide for them more than you do as mom is you being mom of the year. It's sad that children end up reaping what their parents sow, especially when they have awful parents. I witnessed with my own two eyes her post all about her trip and how much money she spent, but at least it was support money for that month, so she didn't have to worry about it. But are you worried about how your kids are going to eat? Because this woman does not work. She collects unemployment and child support while living with her mom. She has no real bills and her only job is to raise those children, but she's rarely with her kids. The money gets used on drugs, shopping, vacations, etc. You name it. She does not pay her mother a dime because her mom is always posting about how hard she works for her grandchildren to have a normal life. Yet the judge ignores all of the facts presented by dad and instead, at their last support hearing, increased dad's support amount because BM found out he got a raise. Let this be a lesson to you dads who think that you have to communicate everything with BM because that is the premise of your previous relationship with her. Let me correct that for you. Stop communicating everything with them. My recent post on Deadbeat Daddy Podcast Instagram stirred up controversy. I posted about ignoring high conflict baby mama's calls in all circumstances that are unrelated to the children. So many BMs climbed into my DMs to tell me that karma will get me for trying to poison their baby daddy's minds. I laugh so hard because I just got my first haters. And then next, I'm doing all this right if they're in my DMs complaining because these BMs are afraid. Yes, listen to that again. They are afraid that you will go back to using that beautiful mind of your own. You will regain the ability to think for yourself and make decisions not driven or impacted by the guilt BM places on you. So yes, unpopular as fuck opinion, but ignore her call. Communicate only using effective methods when necessary. Otherwise, don't communicate at all. Have any of you dads stopped and thought for a moment what would happen if you just ignored a text or call from her? Most of them would lose their shit and start drama. Well, what if you're not on the receiving end of the drama because you made the decision to eliminate that from your life? That's what peace looks like. It takes a lot to get to this place, but you have to be ready for it. Once you're there, there is no stopping you from having that upper hand in the relationship with BM, and she's only as strong as the strength that you give her. Now let's talk about Chicago BMs, because my God, are they trash. They take their own children's PEBT card. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a card that money is placed on by the government for your child to use at school for their meals or groceries for that child's meals. These women take that card and will go and buy a bunch of food for barbecues and parties, stuff that's unrelated to the child. So for those absolutely messed up, disgusting BMs, how the fuck do you all sleep at night knowing that you took food from your own child's mouth, yet you are allowed to have custody of them? The government cannot track how or what the card is being used for. As long as it's being used for food, they allow it. But now you have children going to school who cannot afford lunch because their mom threw a fucking barbecue. Y'all can't see the eye roll I just did, but I swear I think my eyes were about to hit the back of my head. These BMs are not only getting support from the father, but you now have them actively using their own child's money for their own personal benefit or gain. I don't understand these women. Now I'm going to continue on with our story from the last few episodes so that you guys can continue gaining insight as to what we went through, and I'll absolutely be tying it back to the child support issue. If you all remember, and for those of you who haven't had a chance to listen to my previous episodes, RBM withheld my stepson at one point, and when that withholding failed, she decided to come after us financially in a different way. And she already had us paying for everything for the child, but that wasn't enough. She wanted to make sure that she was hurting her baby daddy. She would belittle him at every point in their relationship. She would threaten him with child support until finally she grew this courage to play a game where BM went and lied to the state's attorney's office saying that dad abandoned his son. Now, come on. Anyone with ears and a brain can hear that this is bullshit. She knew what she was doing because abandonment is not dad taking every phone call from this woman when she could not handle the child, which used to be at least 4 times a week. So, for example, when my stepson was living with us, he would go to the grocery store with us, the same as he does with his mother. The only difference is he throws an entire tantrum or fit when he's out in public with her. He would never dare act that way in public with us because we set parenting boundaries, rules, and he understood that there are actual consequences for actions. With her, she rolls over and plays his friend. So of course he walks all over her, as he started to do after we moved. And he was not allowed to come with us. So he began acting out. He started acting out more and more, but whenever she called dad, he answered and handled the situation. Now, despite her seeing that dad was the better and more capable parent, she forced the child to suffer, as she still does. A couple months went on like this until the calls dwindled slowly. And at first we thought she's getting the hang of this parenting gig and she's working it out without needing dad to step in for everything. But boy, were we wrong again, because all that happened was the calls out of nowhere eventually stopped. That is when we became extremely concerned. So we reached out and we heard back a second time in our lives that if we didn't send her money right now, that we would not be able to speak with him again. This was happening over an Xbox controller. Let's hear those words again. A fucking Xbox controller. She made up lies that their son had broken his and he needed a new one immediately, and that she needed money to be able to go buy it for him in the morning. When we did not budge because we didn't buy the story, she got nasty and called him a deadbeat. Their most favorite word in the English language, deadbeat. Let's not forget that this is the man who has supported their son financially from the moment he took his first breath in this world. Him and his family solely paid for every last thing for that child from birth until he was withheld the first time, and then again when he was taken from us. When BM refused to take us up on our offer to go with us and for us to support and help them after we had moved, we offered to take care of him financially. The way we wanted to go about this was that she would get reimbursed by us for purchases for him, whether that's food, clothes, books, necessities, toys, games, as long as she provided a receipt. Or we offered to buy everything up front, but she just had to let us know and we would order everything to her house. This is what she agreed to, but quickly went back on her word because her abusive, manipulative boyfriend and horrible family members coerced BM to make poor decisions and hurt her son again. She would not let dad speak with his son to find find out about what was going on and if he actually needed this controller. We in fact had an unopened one in a box at home, and we were going to mail it out the next day. But she kept coming back in text about send me money now or you won't see or speak to him again. She didn't read or listen to the words she was texting. She was just going at him. And it's so sad to think about the emotional abuse she has put my fiance through. He has dealt with situation after situation with this woman, just trying to be a good father to his son. And she refused all our efforts because we would not send her cash and eventually hung up. The following day, his son happened to call him from his own iPod and confirmed that he didn't need a controller but he did not want us to send one. He said, my uncle sold my Xbox controller, to which my fiance replied, do you want me to send you a new one? I have one here. Now imagine how much my stepson has seen to be speaking like he did at the age of 5. He said, and I quote, no, what if he sells the new one? I can play it at your house. My heart sank in that moment because he had no understanding of what his mother was doing. He still believed he could see his dad every week. If it was not for us talking to him every chance possible after the move, he would have never understood it because mom did not do a great job of explaining anything. Sad to say though, after we confronted BM about this whole Xbox controller situation, which was another mistake we learned from, so take it from us and don't make these mistakes if you haven't. If your child is telling you anything about their time at mom's, do not share it back with BM. She will find a way to use it against you. And this is exactly what we've went through. Instead of discussing it like adults, she lashed out, and every time she spoke to dad after that, it was about money or needing money. We knew something was up, but we couldn't put our finger on it. All while this was happening, despite knowing that she was in the wrong, she went a step further and made false claims to the Illinois State's attorney. She then provided our old address to them, knowing we had moved. They sent paperwork to appear in court to an old address, which was returned to them. They never made an attempt to contact him again. From there, court came and went. BM showed up playing victim and lied and stated that she was not in contact with him, and she lied about his income as well. The corrupt Illinois justice system did not take anything into consideration and stamped an order for support off a falsified salary. All of a sudden, while we're going through a second withholding situation and we had to retain an attorney again, we drained our bank accounts to start fighting for my stepson as my fiance's wage garnishment began. But again, the money did not matter to us. We left everything alone and began working with our attorney on how to gain access to our son and help him further. Our attorney said to continue making contact, and so we did each and every single day. Finally, one day, out of nowhere, our effort prevailed and the call to his iPod connected, and we spoke to our son. He was not at BM's, he was with his aunt, and he in private indicated that he was being abused by her boyfriend. He very clearly explained that he would be locked in a bathroom with the lights off as punishment, and that the boyfriend would hit him on legs, back, pull his hair. Imagine what began to go through our heads. We had no idea what to do. We had never experienced anything like this, and we were 900 miles away. We knew we had to do something to help. That was the first attempt we made it involving the Department of Family and Child Services, who claimed they could not do anything because she displayed that she was living at her mother's house instead of her boyfriend's, where she actually resided. She told flawless lies and manipulated the child to lie because he was told they were moving back to grandma's house. And so the case was quickly closed. After that, he was back at the boyfriend's house, but she cut contact with us completely. She blocked all of us from his iPod and from her phone and any other means to contact her. We had no idea what to do moving forward. We felt our world slip from under us, and we knew we needed to start brainstorming like crazy. So our brainstorming led to us figuring out a workaround. We bought an iPod for our 3-year-old son that lives with us and used that to call my stepson. Dad got a hold of him, and my stepson was just so confused as to how that was happening. But he started talking to his dad, and first his mom heard, and then the boyfriend came up behind the child, started asking, "Who are you talking to?" Imagine my stepson as he conjured the courage to speak up for himself and his dad by saying, "That's my dad. Stop. No, you can't take my phone," as the boyfriend took the phone anyways. They were on FaceTime. He looked at my fiance and began calling him names like a pathetic child. He thought by calling him all the names in the book and acting like he was so hard with that little peepee he probably has that he was going to feel so big and good about himself. But he in fact bullied a 5-year-old boy and his father. And this man is a father himself to 2 sons and a daughter. He should be embarrassed because the karma that will come around will destroy something between him and his sons if it hasn't already. And so after that interaction, the phone was cut by BM. And that was truly the last time we heard from our son until after court. Imagine the agony we faced and how difficult it was for my fiance and I to wake up every single day post that incident and not know how our child is doing, if he's safe or okay. Department of Child and Family Services was not about to help, so we knew we had to take matters into our own hands. And that is exactly what we did. We made phone calls to him daily and cannot wait to show him those phone records, text messages, and explain the details when he is older so that he can understand for himself what went on. While all this was happening, we were in the process of filing with the court system, working with our attorney to fly back to be able to help my stepson. That final interaction with the boyfriend on FaceTime took the cake, and our attorney made it abundantly clear to Dad that he had to be back in Chicago. So we did what we needed, booked a one-way flight to Chicago. Now, the remainder of this story is not for today's episode, so I'm going to leave you on this cliffhanger and give you all more in the next episode about what happened once we got to Chicago. But since the premise of this episode is child support, let's get back to that. All of this happened to us, but we did not let it get to us. And that is the best recommendation I can provide, is do not let yourself feel any kind of way about the money that may be illegally or immorally taken from you in the form of child support. I like to look at it as charity. Not that my stepson is charity, but that his mom is a charity case. She pulled a fast stunt to gain a win, to which I respond with, I'm so glad she won, because any which way I run the numbers, they're living well below their means and need the money. So I do not want to see my stepson suffer, and if this is the only way, so be it. Whether the money is used to pay rent or their drugs, we speak to our son per court order, and he is always clothed, he looks healthy, he reports back to us good, and he's okay despite the circumstances. And this is the beauty of being a father. You can throw all the daggers at a dad, stab him with the largest knife in the back, and take everything of his, including his own blood, and he will still give to his child smiling, because that love is genuine. BMs like ours don't love their children. Y'all see dollar signs when you look at the child. If BMs were not money driven, the statistics wouldn't speak for themselves. Data is available and it shows women defaulted on their support at a higher rate than men. I wonder why. Because if you are ordered to pay the support, it's appalling to you as a woman. How dare someone ask the mother to provide for their child? What is this absurdity? Why isn't dad paying for everything? Ridiculous. BMs that are only motivated to go after money lack a lot in a lot of different departments. Because in our case, we have me, a stepmom, who could have hated BM from the get-go, made her life hell, took the child, made her pay support in the early stages, but instead, prior to moving, I was fighting for her and for my stepson to go with us. I wanted her to start over, do what was right for her and their son. So I came up with a plan that I had my fiance present because, of course, coming from me, it would have never been considered. The idea was to all move as a family unit, and since I landed this career, I was able to afford renting 2 places, and we were going to rent BM an apartment for her and their son. And since she works in the food and beverage industry, it would not have been difficult for her to establish a new job out here. And we had discussed how to help her land interviews, gain a new position, and establish a new job. And until she did, I was willing to solely support them. Dad works from home and watches our bio son, so that would be built-in childcare for both children. And before moving, their court order already had in place that dad was doing pickup and drop off for school, and so this would have just continued on here. not only would this have been a proper fresh start for everyone, but my stepson would have been receiving an education that ranks third best in the country. But she refused all of this because she wanted to keep his son from him. So it would make it look like he's a horrible parent and go after him for support. She may have succeeded in the court's eyes to people who don't know him, but in her own child's eyes, he knows what is happening. He has started to visit his grandparents on his dad's side once a week. He goes there alone to be able to call us. He asks to speak with each of us during these calls, and it brightens up my life. He asks to come be with us regularly, which is something I'm very confident will happen in the near future. Until then, think about the child support payments like charity payments to your charity case of a BM. Everyone has to donate once a year to the charity of their choice, so be it yours is your BM. All these BMs are going to hate me, even more than they do now. But I don't care, bitches, because when I have your own family members in my DMs against you, it says a lot about you. A DM I received recently about support was from a BM's sister. She said, my sister's ex-husband raises all 9 of their kids on his own. They had one hell of a fight in court over custody and child support. The children spoke up and said they choose to be with dad. He just takes care of everything and does not ask her for support. Wow. Can we get this father a trophy or medal or something here? Because I'm over here raising 2 and I feel like death, and he's raising 9 on his own without any help or support from the BM. That's what you call a parent. He's not over here making excuses or a mockery of them in the court system or parading their children's lives around. That father is doing what's required as a good parent, and he's being a parent. He doesn't care how he has to do it. He just does it. That is the definition of a father. Because as we heard, statistics show how often BMs default on CS, but dads pay it and don't even see their child. Yet they make sure they do everything they need to ensure that child has his or her needs met. To me, 70% of why fathers and child bonding nowadays is difficult is because of the mother having no consequences, there being no boundaries, and having behaviors that are of abuse, especially in line with parental alienation. If you're forcing a dad to go through courts to financially support what he knows is his, then you ought to be forced to ensure the father has unobstructed access to his child. Why are you BMs like this? Why is money much more valuable than your child? Another DM I received was from a girlfriend who told me my boyfriend was paying $1,900 a month in support to his ex. He had every other week, split holidays, and week on, week off in the summer. He was given the right to claim the child every other year in taxes in his order, and his ex claimed them every year anyway. He took her to court 2 years ago, and she was ordered to pay him back, which the judge took as a credit in child support, so he did not have to pay for support for 5 months. She then claimed the children again for the next tax year, so he filed contempt again. For last year, he just got a ruling that permanently reduced his support from $1,900 a month to $850 a month, given that BM refuses to work and lives off his support and state welfare. 2 weeks ago, she dropped the child off with us and went to go live back with her parents as a dependent stay-at-home adult child. Yesterday, she texted him that she gives up and now wants their child to live with us full time. He already goes to school here, so this won't be much of an issue. The reduction in CS was ordered just 2.5 months ago. How long should we wait to file for modification in custody? And does he still have to wait 3 years to file for CS modification? She is still collecting $850 a month despite living a few hours away, and she hasn't called the child a single night since. We don't want money, we just want custody. Holy fucking shit. Let's unpack that message. First off, that girlfriend has some thick skin to go through that and watch her abuse them and then abuse the child. It's so sad. This BM gave up the whole child over some money. This is what I mean when I say you BMs are fucking trash. You left your child over the fucking mess you created. So shame on you. But thank goodness that your child has a wonderful father and soon to be mother figure in his life. For you dads that think justice is impossible, it's not. It's on the other side, but it will be a long fight, like I've always mentioned. Just think about this father who was paying $1,900 a month in support to his ex. He had every other week, split holidays, week on, week off in the summer. I mean, that's a bit steep for him. Also taking care of his child basically 50-50. And she robbed him of his tax right when he's not even asking her for anything, nor is he creating issues for BM. He remained patient. So for you dads, the takeaway here is think about this father. He remained patient. He fought through the legal system. He followed the proper protocol. And I cannot preach how important it is to do things the proper legal way. Judges don't give a shit and they hate when you represent yourself. So I don't care, again, as I said before, if you've got to sell a kidney, go sell your fucking kidney, but fight for your child and get yourself a good attorney. Without it, and without some small losses, you dads won't end up with the victory. So when it feels impossible, come back and revisit these episodes and remind yourself of the dads that are stepping stones for the rest of us and that they had to run in order for us to fly. So let's ponder that thought as we bring this episode to a close. I love building this community and providing expanded commentary on topics that are hard to disseminate here. And I'm so grateful for the hundreds of you that join me each week. And so with that, thank you as always, and catch me back here next week with another great episode. And I hope you all have a wonderful night.